Hello furries, today I'll be taking a look at Nyan Neko Sugar Girls. Just kidding, it's Nyan Koi. It's a weird and fairly obscure horror anime that I watched 10 years ago, which I remember liking. Is it still good, or is it a decaying rubble of stinky brown diarrhea poop sludge? Let's find out. Nyan Koi centers around Junpei, who is a guy that hates cats since he's allergic to them. One day after walking home from school, Junpei breaks a cat statue, which curses him and now lets him talk to cats. In order to break the curse, Junpei must help 100 cats with their problems, otherwise he'll turn into a cat. And since he's allergic to cats, he'd then choke on his own hair and... So yeah, Junpei has to help a bunch of cats despite being allergic to them. While this is going on, he's also trying to get into the pants of the super cute bimbo at school named Mizuno, who also likes him back. And of course, since this is a harem, there are plenty of other sluts that want his spicy sausage too. There's Nagi, who's a girl that looks like a dude, a stalker who has a misfortune fetish, as well as Junpei's childhood friend Kanako, who... Besides that, there's really not much else to the series. Junpei helps out some cats while other typical harem nonsense happens. There's an amusement park episode, school field trip episode, indoor pool episode, and others as well.
I washed it and then I ironed it. Here, your hand...
It was at this moment that he knew. He fucked up.
Despite having a lot of harem tropes and cliches, I wouldn't call Nyan Koi generic. Yes, it is a very typical harem, but having its main character talk to cats helps set this apart from other harems. In every single episode, cats are involved in the story in some way, which again helps make the series distinct. However, if you ignore this aspect of the show, there really isn't much that Nyan Koi does that's new or interesting. Again, there's the typical childhood friend character, girl that gets mistaken for a dude, as well as the bitchy tsundere too.
Bitch.
Now, I don't really mind this, since its characters as well as its comedy are decent, and that's all I really need in a harem.
You shall not pass!
Having a good story is important and certainly helps, but not all series need one to succeed. Nyan Koi is a decent example of this since it doesn't have much of a story, yet despite that, I still like it. The only developments that happen are that Junpei and Mizuno get a tiny bit closer in some episodes, but that's really it. Many of these episodes are episodic, and because of that, I really don't have much else to say about its plot. The only nitpick I have is that some parts are a bit weaker than others. One of them is episode 3, which is my least favorite since it introduces Worst Girl Chizuru, and no, not that one.
You'll get your rent when you fix this damn door!
She isn't very interesting or memorable, but thankfully she's only in half the episode. The second half is a flashback, which is fine, but the first half is still just forgettable and average. But besides that, the only other problem is its finale.
Meow?
Junpei turns into a cat because Mizuno starts to think that he's cursed, and if someone finds out or suspects Junpei of being cursed, then the curse will rapidly progress, he'll turn into a cat, and then... While he's a cat, Mizuno finds him, hugs him, and then stops believing that he's cursed. He then turns back into a human, and that's how the anime ends. Yeah, this is not a great or even good way to end the season. Junpei getting turned into a cat is interesting, especially since it was hinted at in the first episode. Mizuno hugs him too, which is nice, but besides that, this is a very weak way to end the anime. Normally I'd be more mad at this episode, but I don't mind it that much since there wasn't much of an emphasis on its plot to begin with. Again, the series is very episodic and barely anything develops throughout it, so that's why I'm not too mad at this. They still could have done something better, like having Junpei and Mizuno go on a date, which would have developed their relationship a bit more. But they didn't, and what we got was a disappointing finale, but on its own, still a fine episode. Besides its cat gimmick, what makes Nyan Koi a decent show is its cast. None of the characters may be great, but most of them are alright. Surprisingly, one of the better characters in the show is Junpei. He's not great, but is still better than a decent amount of other harem protagonists. He does act like a pussy whenever he's around Mizuno, but more so than not, he's actually not half bad. He's usually irritated and angry since he constantly has to deal with helping cats and even gets mad at others too.
Who are you calling Kobaka? My name is Kosaka! Get it right or get out, bitch!
But yeah, Junpei is alright, and the same goes for the hot mamas too.
Number 6.
Like I said earlier, Chizuru is worst girl because she feels kinda pointless. She's a clumsy mail woman that delivers mail, and that's it. She does get Junpei a part-time job later on, so she isn't entirely pointless, but besides that, she's just very forgettable. However, the main reason she's worst girl is because she's voiced by Satan herself, aka Monica Rial.
You're making me embarrassed.
Number 5.
Akari is one of the two blonde twins who's a tsundere, which is just fancy talk for saying she's a bitch. She has psychic powers or some shit and fights spirit monsters at night, so that's cool, I guess. But besides that, she's still a bitch.
Number 4.
Mizuno was the main heroine of the series, but unfortunately, she's not too memorable. She's your typical average nice girl, she likes animals, but that's really it. I can see why Junpei likes her, but there's 3 that are clearly better than her.
Number 3.
Kotone is Akari's older sister who loves and stalks Junpei since she has a misfortune fetish. That's weird, but then again, who am I to talk? Kotone would easily be number 2 and maybe even number 1 if she got more screen time, but sadly she's not in the show that much.
Number 2.
Kaneko is Junpei's childhood friend who at first wore makeup and thankfully she stopped wearing makeup, but if she didn't, then my eyeballs would have been sucked from their sockets. Anyway, Kaneko is a typical childhood friend character and is also another tsundere in the show. She's a much better tsundere than Akari, and it makes sense why she'd be mad at Junpei since he has eyes for Mizuno and not herself. Maybe in the manga, Junpei gets rid of his brain tumor and chooses her, but we'll get to that later.
Number 1.
Nagi is best girl because I said so. She's a lot of fun, she's very over the top, and most of her scenes are some of the anime's best. Unfortunately, after episode 5, she really doesn't do much, which sucks since again, she's clearly the show's best character. She seemed like she'd help Junpei and Mizuno get closer with each other, but again, she only did that in 1 episode. But despite that, she's best girl. She may be flat, but I'd still hit that. The anime was animated by AIC, and it doesn't look half bad at all. The show does vary in terms of quality. Sometimes it looks just alright, but other times it looks surprisingly solid. Character designs are pretty good, animation is good, definitely better looking than most harem anime. I couldn't find the anime's OST online, so I'm just gonna say the soundtrack is alright. I re-listened to some scenes and the tracks seem fine. Nothing too generic, but nothing worth jamming to at 3:28 AM. However, its ending theme is spicy goodness like a boss.
God, you're whining like a little bitch.
Its English dub, on the other hand, was yet another surprise. There's multiple actors that have barely been in anything else besides this, such as Nagi, Mizuno, and Junpei's. They're all good, but since they're not in literally every single other anime like most voice actors are, they stand out and make the characters more distinct. It sucks that these 3 didn't do much else, especially Nagi's, who's the best of them.
You're the scoundrel that made her look that way. I will never forgive you. Never.
Well, that was Non-Neko Arc Sugar Girls, and it was
Okay.
It has a decent cast, it's got some good jokes, has some solid animation, a good dub, and overall isn't half bad. It might lack an engaging story as well as an ending, but if you're a big harem fan like me and you haven't seen it yet, then I lightly recommend it. And that's why I'm giving Neko Arc's Dilemma a 6.29 out of 10. Well, that was the anime, so now it's time to take a quick look at the manga. From what I've heard, the manga was cancelled since the author got sick, so I'm not looking forward to reading it just to find out that it ends on a cliffhanger. But who knows, maybe what's not in the anime is really good, but I guess there's only one way to find out. Well, I read the manga, and there's not much to say about it. It's only 34 chapters long, and the anime seems to adapt the first 14 chapters. Some chapters are in a slightly different order than the anime, but for the most part they're the same and you can skip them. That being said, the anime doesn't just adapt chapters from the manga, since it turns out that about a third of it is completely original. That's kinda surprising, but at the same time the series has barely any plot, so it shouldn't be too difficult to write a basic 22-minute episode as long as the characters are still fun and well written. Anyway, this means that the last 20 chapters weren't adapted, although again, there's not much to say about them. They're either 1 or 2 chapter long stories and not much happens in them. There might be some slight drama and plot developments, but it's still the same dumb slice of life series at the end of the day. The only noteworthy thing is that in chapter 15, we actually see the guy Chizuru likes, which was surprising. However, we find out that he is now a she since he got a sex change.
What the fuck?
The second half is notably better compared to the first. However, that's because I recently finished the anime, so I wanted to get through the early chapters quickly. One downgrade from the anime is its art, which is really mixed. Sometimes it looks good, sometimes it looks passable, and sometimes it looks like... The biggest problem is its character designs, or more specifically, some of its characters' faces. They can look really long, proportionally wrong, and just off-putting. Again, the manga can look fine, but there's chapters or just random pages that look like they were drawn by a completely different person. Anyway, like I said, the manga got cancelled and ended unresolved since the author got sick or something. So that's really frustrating and disappointing, since one of the big appeals of horror manga is seeing how they end. The author being sick does suck, but he's not dead or anything. In fact, he made a new series in 2020, although it ended after only 2 years. Now, if he got better, then why didn't he come back and finish this series first instead of making a brand new one? The Nyankoi fans have been waiting over a fucking decade to see who Junpei chooses. Will it be Mizuno, Kotone, Kanako, Nagi, or even John C. Now, I know it might be hard to believe, but I actually got in touch with the author and asked him how he planned on ending the series. According to him, the last couple chapters would go like this. Suddenly, out of nowhere, there's a giant meteor that's heading to Earth. When it gets there, Junpei punches it, which makes it explode. However, instead of killing everyone, a bunch of cats come out of it, then they all thank him for saving them. Because of that, the curse is finally lifted, and Junpei doesn't have to worry about turning into a pussy. He then confesses his love to Nagi, and the two of them have rough, steamy, hot, juicy sex, which lasts for over 200 pages. So yeah, that's a pretty sick ending. Anyway, Nyan Neko Sugar Girls manga is very short, its art is inconsistent and worse, plus it doesn't even have an ending either. Because of that, it makes recommending it kinda difficult, although if you like the anime, then I think reading its second half isn't a complete waste of time. But with that, I'm giving Neko Arc's Meow-tastic Christmas a 5.97 out of 10.
The Fitness Gram Pacer test.
Well, that's going to do it for this video. If you liked it and want to see more, you can help by leaving a like, comment, sharing, and subscribing. You can also support me on Patreon and can now even become a member of my channel here on YouTube. Anything helps, and I appreciate every single one of you guys and girls. Anyway, peace out, bronies, and remember to vote for Donald J. Trump this November.
Bye, have a great time.